I say I'm the man? Am I losing my mind? Am I wasting my time? Do I know who I am? I don't know who I am. Can I say I'm the man? I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know who I am.
So confused in this life full of mystery. Guess I'm glad it ain't a life full of misery. I wanna dance, I wanna fly, I wanna let it free. But that's a different side of people, they don't want.
To another episode of Unconventional Playbook. I'm your host, Lionel Jones, along with your host, Mr. Patrick Buchanan. Pat, how you doing, man? How was your weekend?
The weekend was good. You know, I was out there reffing some this weekend, so a little busy. My thighs is a little burning, but I'm good.
Okay.
I always got to find a way to be around basketball.
Oh, yeah. I wish I had your knees and your thighs, because right now I couldn't even think about getting up and down a basketball court with my bad knees, man.
Man, if it wasn't for this brace, I wouldn't be getting up and down with mine. So I got to keep that brace on that knee. Otherwise, I'm not getting up and down.
Yeah. My wife and I went out with our college friends to a place in St. Paul called Can Wonderland. Have you ever heard of that?
Nah, what's Can Wonderland?
Man, it's absolutely fantastic. I know you got a little one at home, so she would love it, but it's meant for adults too. You know, if you like mini golf, if you know, it's one of those type of places. But the great thing about the mini golf there is that they incorporated local artists to design various holes, you know, throughout the facility there. And the holes are really, really unique. The artists did a really, really great job there. It was a good time, good food. You know, you can have a couple of beverages. They've got a section where they have a lot of old school video games if you're into that. You know, it was just a great day to spend a hot day yesterday because it was scorching yesterday. So it was a great day. Oh, man, it was terrible. So, you know, just to spend some time, it was a great time with my friend Tony and his lovely, lovely wife, Sigrid.
Yeah, well, when my wife and daughter get back in town, maybe that's something that we'll go out there and do.
Okay. Yeah, I highly suggest that anyone out there that's in the St. Paul area, Can Wonderland, absolutely fantastic. It's a good time. I've been getting a lot of feedback from the nation. The nation has been reaching out, sending emails, making some comments. I want to share a few of those.
What the nation got to say?
The nation is really, really reaching out. I got my guy Alan from Cedar Rapids. He just wanted to let us know, guys, you got a great show. Keep it rolling. Thanks, Alan. Really appreciate the love out there. My guy Tyrell from Chicago, Illinois, sent me a message, said, Lionel, Pat is a great addition to the show. Hope he's on more episodes. I told you before Pat even got on the show, I told you that the reason why I wanted to go out and get him and make him an addition to the show. So Pat, Tyrell said you're a great addition, man.
I appreciate that, Tyrell, right? I'm just feeding off of Lionel here. We just, there was already this chemistry, so it's just being able to share this with UP Nation and continue to help that grow, and everyone loves what we're doing. So appreciate that, Tyrell.
Oh, yeah. My guy Rashid from Faribault says you guys have a great show, but you need to talk and focus more on Minnesota sports. Now, I've gotten a couple of emails about that, and Pat and I have talked about that. And this is kind of, you know, we've got a little dead period here when it comes to sports. You know, we can talk about the Lynx, we can talk about the Minnesota Twins, but we agree with you. We should talk more Minnesota sports. But I'm telling you right now, in the next couple of months, you guys are going to get tired of us talking Minnesota sports with training camp right around the corner. You got, you know, the Minnesota Timberwolves season right around the corner. Once we get out of this dead period, we're going to talk more Minnesota sports. Right, Pat?
Oh, yeah, definitely. We're about to throw you with a lot of Minnesota. You're getting a little taste, right, of what, how we're going to present things. But when Minnesota, obviously football becomes number one here in Minnesota. We all are Vikings fans. You're a Minnesota fan. You love that, right? And I think that'll be our top topic, right? And then when the Timberwolves start later in October, right, that'll come more. But we getting ready right now. This is a preseason for the season, right? That's what it feels like for me. This is preseason right now because the season about to start in like 2 weeks. So
Yeah. Nation, you nation, we getting there. We getting there.
we hear you though. We hear you though, right? There are sometimes there's some other stuff that you might want to hear though when we add in with the Minnesota stuff. So, but listen, we listen to UP. We do want to be, I feel like, unique when it comes to Minnesota sports. Two positive people trying to do it the right way. So I hear you, and that's what I want to talk to Minnesota sports.
Yeah, and I think our podcast, I can safely say, is probably going to be 90% Minnesota sports, 5% national sports. When things come up, we're Unconventional Playbook, so we're going to have to talk about some things nationally, and then 5% of it as well may be things that are non-sports related, but that are community topics that we may want to touch on. But we're going to be about 90% Minnesota sports. So just to let you guys know that, my guy Derek from Sarasota, Florida. He said, I heard you guys talking about the 76ers and the Boston Celtics and a couple of podcasts ago. What about my team, the Orlando Magic? Where do you guys see them next year? Pat, I'll let you take that one first.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Listen, that is a fantastic question, man. What your young guys over there in Orlando Magic did this year was fantastic. I got a chance to talk to Jalen Suggs about a month ago, right? Saw him at a tournament. We talked like I wanted to praise him. Like it's a Minnesota guy, so I wanted to praise him because it was his first year really being healthy. And when
Yeah.
he looked healthy, the team looked healthy, right? And now it's just them pretty much training their bodies to go longer in the playoffs, right? They signed back Mo. They brought over a veteran in Katavius Pope, which I think has helped. They're a youthful team, and you are right, right? They're one of them teams that came out on the radar this year. We didn't expect Orlando Magic to be that, right? But I do expect Orlando Magic to be in that top echelon, top five in the East, right? If I mean, maybe they can jump in the top three. We were just speaking about top three,
Yeah.
right? Now, do I feel like that the Cleveland Cavaliers and Orlando Magic there? Yeah, but Orlando Magic is there. And as long as, right, they got the Wagners, they got Pablo, right? At the big, they just, got to figure that out. Continuous with a bench. I'm not for sure if they brought Gary Harris back, and then you got Anthony coming off the bench. But man, that is a young and upcoming team. When you talk about young and upcoming teams, you talk about Oklahoma City Thunder. You talk about the Sacramento. But this team right here is one of them in the Eastern Conference, especially, right?
Yeah.
There's only 3 or 4 teams that you can say really is whatever. They're there, right? And I feel like they broke through threshold this year and they'll continue to thrive, right? I love what they have over there, the pieces they have over there. They're entertaining to watch now, right? It took a while, right? They had
Yeah.
a process too, but their process is going pretty damn well over there in Orlando.
Yeah, the Orlando Magic are fire, man. The Orlando Magic are fire. They're a young team, but they're in a prove it stage. Like everything you said was 100% correct. I think it's safe to say they're not in the category of the 76ers, the Boston Celtics. I mean, those Milwaukee Bucks. Those three teams are a little bit ahead of Orlando. Orlando played the Cavaliers tough last year in the playoffs. Game 7, I believe Cavaliers ended up pulling it out. But the fact that they got there, because like you said, you talked about the process. A couple of years ago, the Orlando Magic was one of the worst teams in the NBA. So to see them climb in the Eastern Conference to where they are, kudos to them. I'm not ready to put them in the upper echelon of the Eastern Conference. They're in a prove it year. And so, but I think they're headed in the right direction. I mean, they've added some pieces. Like you said, Contavious Caldwell Pope is a significant signing to help bolster that roster. So I think they're going to be in the conversation for things. I think they are a first round, second round type team. I don't see them as an Eastern Conference final type team. but you never know with the trade deadline coming up, around about Christmas time. You never know what pieces a team like that can add to get over the hump. So I totally agree with you as well, Pat. We got our girl Shelly from Edina. Her question is, Lionel and Pat, do you think Adam Thielen will be coming back to the Vikings? Oh, that's a good question. Um,
Coach. Did you talk on the air about that last time?
I
Right?
did. I
Okay,
did
you
talk
talked
about,
about it on the air. I remember you making that statement, right,
yeah,
about it. So I'll let you
yeah.
go ahead and talk about that.
Yeah, Adam Thielen, he's been in town working out with JJ McCarthy. They've been, running routes and throwing passes and stuff like that. Adam Thielen, for everything that I've heard, has been very complimentary of JJ McCarthy. And so I think that's what's, starting the embers of the fire, that people are thinking that the Minnesota Vikings are going to take a flyer back on Adam Thielen. I think a lot of things have to fall in place. Now, we're going to talk later about Jordan Addison. That may have some bearing on what the Minnesota Vikings do with the whole Adam Thielen is. But then it just, talks about what does Adam Thielen want? How much money does he want to make? I know he loves Minnesota, but business is business. So I think there's a chance. I think it's a small chance, but there's a lot of things that have to fall into place to bring Adam Thielen back to the Minnesota Vikings.
Well, number one thing, like if he comes back, he's a fantastic locker room guy. He's a great guy. He's a Minnesota, grown kid, right? And worked his way up, you know, from the practice squad all the way up to being a Pro Bowler, right? You talk about, we were talking about his top duos, right, in the league with this man, and it'll be a top trio. Plus, you need somebody else to continue to help Addison out, right? In his
Yeah,
growth of maturity rise, right? Now, with these things, recent news events, I agree with you. Maybe this is one of them things that Kwesi pushes more towards getting this done, KOC and Kwesi, right?
yeah,
Do I think he's going to retire Viking? Yeah, 100%. Feel like he's going to retire Viking. Feel like there's love there. Like you seeing Harrison go through it, and you seeing people leave and come back, right? So I feel like yes. To Shelly, to answer your question, I feel like he'll be wearing that purple and gold again with Skull Nation.
Thielen coming back to the Vikings. Look, you
I
heard
would
it from
love
the
it.
sports guru of
Breaking
Minnesota.
news on Unconventional Playbook.
My guy Brad from North Dakota. He said you guys been talking Minnesota sports. You haven't talked much Gophers football. Where do you see the Gophers this year and in the future in the Big Ten with PJ Fleck? Good question. I'll let you start with that one, Pat.
You know, I love PJ's energy, right? I've always loved his energy coming out. All right, PJ's a good coach, right? The Big Ten just got that much better, right?
Yeah,
There's a two
yeah,
conference race, SEC and the Big Ten, right? And where do we fit in this, right? I feel like we always have this pound game, right? We got the big offensive linemen, big tight ends, right? Great running game, right?
yeah,
Um, Try to, I would love for us to be a more up tempo offensive team, right? Where we found this, special quarterbacks and slung the ball up and down the field. I just think that it's getting tougher. The Big Ten, and I mean, I know he can go in the South and recruit. He's proven that. So it's just continuously recruiting, continuous growth, right? Like I would love to see us to be one of them high scoring teams. Like we always, yeah. I would love for our non-conference schedule to even get tougher, right? I
yeah,
know you got to go through the gauntlet of the Big Ten, but let's get inside some of these other conferences in the Big 12, ACC, SEC non-conference games. I think we got to start more challenging ourselves more. The more that you put those type of teams on your schedule, the better your recruiting come because that is a game that can be nationally televised, right?
yeah, yeah.
And I feel like it's not the coaching part, is the personnel that we're bringing in. But the one thing I do know about Minnesota sports, right, Minnesota Gophers, especially with the men's basketball and the football, is we're not We got Fortune 500 companies here in Minnesota, right? And
Absolutely.
I would love for these Fortune 500 companies to help us out when it comes to the NIL, because we're fighting all these traditions, the Michigans, the Ohio States, the Penn States, right? The Wisconsins, right? We're fighting all these places, and we really need more NIL money. So that's what I really beg of, is more NIL. I mean, it is, whether you like it or not, it's where the game is right now, right?
Yep.
It's not
Yep.
about, you ain't got to be a fantastic recruiter. You got to have dollars. And we need more dollars here to be able to go with the Oregons and the USCs coming here in this conference to add with already the great teams we have. It's always great, when playing Iowa, Wisconsin, but, they're getting better and better as well. We just got to keep up with the Joneses.
Yeah. I think when you look at the Minnesota Golden Gophers men's football program, I think PJ Fleck, I know he's received a lot of criticism. He runs the ball too much. He doesn't have that spread out offense that is sexy to a lot of recruits out there. But in my opinion, where the Gophers program is right now, PJ Fleck is a perfect coach. Like, I think you got to go back and look at the history of the Gopher program. When it comes to head coaches, there's been a lot of misses all the way back from Gutekunst to Whackers. I mean, it's not easy to bring coaches here that can galvanize the community and the team and put together a decent program. That realistically has been hard here for the Minnesota Golden Gophers. So now, if you're talking about jettison PJ Fleck or have him go somewhere else because you don't want him, now you're taking a chance of going back down to what you used to be. At least PJ Fleck has us in a place where we're competitive. We're kind of in the middle of the Big Ten pretty much year in, year out. We're not at the top, but we're definitely not at the bottom. I think that's attributed to PJ Fleck. I think, though, if I'm PJ Fleck, I think a lot of this is determined by how committed he is to stay in Minnesota. Because I'm going to be realistic with you. If I'm PJ Fleck and I'm seeing USC coming in, and I'm seeing Oregon coming in, and I'm seeing UCLA coming in, the task, Pat, was already daunting without those teams.
Yes.
And now I've got to recruit against those teams.
Yeah.
Can I do that? And realistically, I just don't ever see a time where the Minnesota Golden Gophers football program, I hope I'm wrong about this because that's my alma mater and I want to see them do really well. I just don't see them at the upper echelon of the Big Ten consistently. They may have those years where they get up there a year, but the recruiting is tough. You talked about the NIL money, man. That is so huge. You are 1,000% correct about that. If you don't have that influx of money coming in, it's just going to be tough to compete in the Big Ten. And I think PJ Fleck, man, he's in for a tough job. So we appreciate all the questions.
Listen,
We're going
Coach.
yeah,
Coach, Ben Johnson and PJ Fleck, they working with the tools that they're given, that the U of M
yeah,
is giving them right now, right?
yeah,
So to people to want to crack them or whatever, like I crack at, Ben, but like there's two players that left that got more money going other places, right? And
absolutely.
Pharrell and Braden Carrington, right?
Yeah,
So like you're gonna get more money. Like this is the generation. So we as Minnesota, right, as these Fortune, like I'm talking about once again, the Fortune 500s here in Minnesota, let's
yeah,
help the Minnesota Gophers out. Because I'm gonna tell you something right now, as I said it before, St. Thomas Academy has became a Division One. They have donors, they have big pockets, they're gonna get recruits. So I know the Gophers know this, and I just hope that they can get the money so these coaches really can be as successful and compete, right, in this conference, because this conference is different now.
yeah. They better. I mean, there's just no way around it. They're better. Uh, thanks for all the questions and all the comments and all the emails. We're going to continue to try to answer some of your stuff and shape the show the way you want it shaped.
Yes.
So we really appreciate that. Pat, I want to talk about Summer League last night, and I thought last podcast you hit the nail dead on the head with Rob Dillingham. I thought he looked a lot more comfortable last night. I've been really impressed with this kid's vision. More so than anything else about his game. Yeah, the athleticism is good. He can shoot the ball. He's a scorer. But the vision of this young man has been absolutely fantastic. And you've coached enough ball where that's kind of a unicorn when it comes to point guards, especially young point guards. Everybody wants to play defense. Everybody wants to score. But very rarely do you find those PGs that have that next level vision. And Rob Dillingham has that, man.
Man, Rob Dillingham. Look, last podcast, I called his stat line. I said 14 and 5 assists, right? Well, my brother went out and got 14, 8 assists with only 2 turnovers, right? So, he was, listen, when you're watching him play, and I love that, the broadcaster for last night, right, on the show was Jamal Crawford, right? Yeah. Crawford was on there. Crawford got the relationship with him. Man, he looked like little Crawford out there, like baby Crawford, right? Yeah. Crawford 2.0, as you get stronger, bigger, whatever. He's a walking bucket. He's instant offense. I love that. I love the way that they're giving him the ball and putting it in his hands, allowing him to play make for the team, right? Yeah, he may have, shots got early were there and got off late, but the one thing that he did was made sure others get their shots, right? Yeah. He could have had a double last night with assists, right? Yep, some of these, shots that are made, whatever. His passing ability, his vision and uniqueness of his quickness, right? They always talk about it like, and this is, you understand basketball, if you have great handles, you are a great passer. Great handles go, like, if you want to have your passing skills up to be, you got to have great handles with both hands. And then your passing, right, elevates off of that, right? Yes, and he understands that as a young man, right, a 19-year-old guy. Rob did, I knew it. I knew he was going to bounce back, right? It was his first time out, right? Yeah. Dillingham can play. Like Conley was talking about last night. Yeah, these two guys, they know what we expect because they're going to get out there, right? They're going to put them out there. They're not going to pacify them, baby. When the season comes, Rob and Shannon Jr. are going to get out there, right? But there's 2 other guys that I've been watching, and I've been saying to myself, Coach, Timberwolves, y'all, they should be on your roster too. Number 1 is Josh Minot. Double last night, right?
Yeah, he's long, man. He's long.
Long. That length, right? He is long, and with the defense that we bring, that's like, having another Jaden, McDaniels out there, right? Yeah. So having another McDaniels at that length at 6'8", that helps our defense. But my man had 5-6 steals last night. You're talking about Clark, right? Yeah. Clark was out there all over, right? It was offense, defensive sub. We going to Clark. Clark, right? He disrupted a lot of things that the Pacers wanted to do yesterday. And he, this team, you're watching them in Summer League, they're being able to play different styles, right? The first game became a slower, and Indiana likes to get up and down, right, and score. And we were able to do that and get the stops that we needed. Game of runs. We had the last run, I think, was the 13-1 run in that game. So there's so many young pieces on that team where I was looking at the roster last night and I'm like, all right, is they signing Garza back, right? I don't think TJ Warren's here anymore. I don't know what they're doing with that, but I'm like, man, there's 4 guys that should be on that 12-man roster come right as they're going through preseason and training camp once that's over, right? I loved watching them, the winning mentality, the mentality of the defense, like we talked about last time. Like, yes.
Yeah. Circling back to Rob Dillingham, man, the one thing that I was really, really impressed with him is the Timberwolves run a lot of zoom action stuff, and to see him get those, dribble handoffs, those DHOs, a lot of the times he's a righty. He's coming back, going left, and he's strong with his left. Usually, especially under these circumstances, you see players go into their comfort zone where if you're a righty, you're really patting the ball with your right hand. He's going right or left. I think you're right about some of the other young bucks on the team. I think, first of all, Jalen Clark, 2nd-round pick last year from UCLA, a lot of people don't know he's coming off an Achilles tear. So he didn't even get a chance to rock last year, and to see where he is mentally, like an Achilles is probably one of the toughest injuries for a basketball player for you to come back from. So he seems to have gotten over that mental hurdle. And man, can he defend? He is another
Yes.
one of these players that can defend on ball, has really good instincts off the ball. I think he's someone that they're looking to in the future to be on, the roster. I just think, with this summer league, it is about the consistency of some of these players on whether or not they make the roster or not. Like, it's one thing, we talked about it the other day. It's one thing to play well in the summer league and look good in the summer league, but once you step into that official NBA practice, the talent level rises. And it just really depends on whether or not these players that are really shining in summer league can come into an official NBA practice and present themselves well in an official NBA practice. The talent is there, the raw talent is there, but can they produce the same thing, and can they have that consistency? But the Minnesota Timberwolves roster, man, those young kids are just really, really impressive. The one thing that is safe to say is that they got a good foundation, and they've got a lot of good depth, Pat, in their program.
Yeah, they got a good. They have, Coach Finch, as like. Remember, I talked developmental, right?
Yeah.
So we're talking about all these other guys. The developmental that Coach Finch has with his organization right now,
Yeah.
is phenomenal. They're Dillingham, might not. Terrence Shannon Jr., right, is in great hands when it comes to his development.
Yeah.
For him to bounce back with after 25, a 19-point game, right? It was an effective 19 points, right? But like that tells you still of what he is. He didn't come back with a 4 or 6 point game. He came back with a 19-point game,
Yeah.
right? And I just think everything that they're doing is moving upward, right? As long as they can keep these guys with their heads straight, that's the ones that are on the active roster now versus these young ones in summer league and not doing things out of character, right? Just keep the growth on. But what it does is it scares everyone else, right?
Yeah.
People are looking at this summer league, and you got to be honest. Like, if you're in the top of the West, you're like, man, look, like they drafted, they're about to add this. This has got to scare teams in the West, right? Because they already know Minnesota in their defense that they bring, and they knew the missing recipe was getting some buckets off the bench, and they went and got that. That's scary. That's a very scary thought for the Minnesota Timberwolves and in the Western Conference.
Yeah. Yeah. So, they're looking great. Lots of summer league left to go, training camp left to go. But a lot of good things can happen when you have a great ball of clay like the Minnesota Timberwolves have, where you can start molding that thing into whatever way you want to mold it. That's a great starting point. Minnesota Timberwolves undefeated in summer league right now, winning last night versus the Indiana Pacers 105-94. So my guy Rashad from Faribault, we just talked Minnesota sports, my man. A lot more to come. I want to get to the whole receiver documentary. For those of you that have not watched the documentary, you should start watching it because it highlights one of the superstars in our great state of Minnesota, Justin Jefferson. And I love these documentaries because I think the producers and the creators behind these documentaries do a great job of deep diving into certain athletes that they're featuring. And I don't know much about Justin Jefferson other than that he wasn't highly recruited coming out of high school. He played at LSU, and now he's a superstar for the Minnesota Vikings and just signed one of the richest non-quarterback contracts in the NFL. A lot of things, Pat, surprised me about Justin Jefferson. How passionate this young man is about the game of football. I'm not surprised at that because I know the young man is passionate, but to see it in front of your eyes, how even when he got hurt, how badly he wanted to come back and be with his team. And even when he physically couldn't be with his team, Pat, he was on the sideline coaching his team. What were your thoughts about what you saw from Justin Jefferson in that Netflix documentary, Receiver?
There was parts with with JJ that I saw, like, is the knowing that Jets is an alter ego,
Yeah.
right? Obviously he keeping his family very close, like he's different than everyone else. Everyone else has this significant other or whatever. His significant other is his family and the tightness of the Jefferson family, and I love that about him. Um, I learned, I didn't know, like, he's this, like, I've talked to him before and I've, seen him out and, look at him in interviews and things like that. And he's a very shy person. I didn't know, like, you wouldn't know that what you see on the football field, that's not his person. Like, he's shy, right? He's reserved.
Yeah.
He's not this need to be in the spotlight type of guy, except for when he puts that uniform on, when he puts his chains on, right? And his Jets, that is something that you would not know, right? And that's always, we can't judge books by their covers, right? Uh, but that's something that I right away gravitated in, and I love that this young man is very humility, humble, good Southern raised family. That he's this shy kid, right?
Yeah.
He's just a shy young man, right?
Yeah.
But he's the alter ego I love about it, and I love that the leadership. His focus is on helping win, and his focus is on being the best teammate he can be.
Yeah. The one thing that surprised me, obviously, Justin is not hurting financially at all. I was surprised at his living accommodations, living in the duplex. And I think about crazy things, man. Some of the logistic things that people, really don't necessarily think about. I think about, who is his neighbor that lives next door? Like, who is the guy or the gal or the family that lives next door to Justin Jefferson? And that really intrigued me, because when, there is nothing, absolutely nothing wrong with being a wealthy person and living where he lives. What that tells you about him is how humble he
Yeah.
is. He is a very humble individual. I remember Flip Saunders, when he was alive, God rest his soul, invited me and my wife over to his house for dinner. And I'm thinking, hey, this is an NBA coach, president of operations for the Minnesota Timberwolves at the time. And to see his home, which was a beautiful home, he lived on the 9th hole of the Medina golf course. But his home was not like you would think an NBA coach's home would be stereotypically. Very humble, very nice. And that's the type of person that Flip Saunders was. Very down to earth, very humble. I see some of the same things in Justin Jefferson, and it's just a beautiful thing to watch on that documentary, man.
Yeah, it is. Like UP Nation, if you don't know, right? Right next where TCO Stadium is, I work right next door to him. So I get to see JJ in the neighborhood a lot, right? Sometimes I'm driving away, going to get lunch or whatever. If you see that, smoked out, Mercedes, Benz, right? That's JJ, right? So, drive past his place all the time. You can see it right off of the major road there, right? If he's home or not, right? He's that Benz is sitting out there, and he like JJ will tell you, is to the facility and back home, right? He's not out there like that. It's facilities back home, right?
Yeah.
I seen him one time at a gas station, and gas station that's locally around there, and he wasn't all iced up, dressed, booted, normal person, right? So you wouldn't even know it's Justin Jefferson if you didn't know who Justin Jefferson was. Normal person, going in there, right? Get my stuff, walk out the door, right? Quiet, kid. You say something to her, he'll answer your question. But I love you. Use the right words, right? That's humble, right, and down to earth, and he's just not flashy, and I love that he gets to like, we all have that inner, right, in us, right, that alter ego, right, and I love that he uses the game and his fight to be great, right, and to bring it out and show everybody else this other side of him, right? We're so blessed to see the other side, but this receiver will let us all see the side we don't see of him. And that what makes us love him more, right? Shoot, that's what's making us love this young man more, right? I mean, arguably we could say in 4 years he's the second best wide receiver to ever play here. He's a great role model. He's done everything right. League's best receiver. Well, I mean, we're blessed to have him in Minnesota, and in 2 weeks we about to really start chiming
Yeah,
in on this young man. So,
yeah,
um, yeah, it was. I love the way it's going with it. I'm enjoy watching it more and more, and just the mental. Like he's more mature than people thought because they're talking about his injury that he had last year, right? And how he's dealing with that. The mental part of it still being a leader for this team. How can he impact without being on the field? Right. And that just shows you true character. And when you see his family around him, you'll understand how mom and dad and his brothers have helped raise that young man to be what he is.
yeah. He's absolutely extraordinary. I'm glad the Minnesota Vikings got that deal done, so he's going to be around here for a long time. Another wide receiver that they feature on the show is Devontae Adams, and I'm going to be honest with you, I really didn't know a whole lot about Devontae Adams. I know he played at Fresno State. Obviously, I live here in the state of Wisconsin, played for the Green Bay Packers before he went to the Raiders. I'm always intrigued, man, by players because, when you look at the offensive side of the game and you have a really great wide receiver, most great wide receivers have, really, really good quarterbacks or elite quarterbacks. And I'm surprised when tandems get together like that. And I know everybody wants their bag, everybody wants their money and big contracts. Um, I don't understand why individuals don't seem to place a value on who they're playing with. I'll give you a perfect example. Devontae Adams, during the course of, receiver, was a little bit frustrated with the quarterbacks that he had on the field, and I just thought to myself, man, you had Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, arguably one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game, and in my opinion, one of the best quarterbacks to ever sling that football around. You had that. And I know at the time people weren't sure about whether or not Aaron Rodgers was going to stay with the Packers or not.
Yeah.
He's always got 1 foot into the team, 1 foot out. But man, you were playing with one of the best. And now you take a risk on going with the Raiders. And you obviously are going to go down a level. You can look at Kirk Cousins. He didn't get what he wanted in Minnesota, but you're leaving the best wide receiver in the game to go to Atlanta and play with the unknown. So I'm just always surprised that players don't put a premium on that. And I think watching Devontae Adams and his story so far, I haven't finished the whole receiver documentary, but there seems to be a lot of frustration just looking at that behind the scenes with who is out there playing quarterback with him. Did you see that from Devontae Adams when you watched it?
Yeah, but I saw another part too, right?
Okay.
He wanted, right, Derek Carr. It was his college quarterback, right?
Yeah.
So he wanted that. That was something that they talked about when, before, like he shared it. It was something they talked about. Yeah, did it work out after one season? They cut him, right, Derek Carr, but it was something in their life that they said they had the opportunity to do. Now, moving forward, he was dealing with a man that we knew couldn't throw the ball that well in Garoppolo,
Yeah.
right? And his frustration, he probably wasn't as frustrated with Derek Carr as he was with Garoppolo, right? But, we know what happens last year, like, so it's not a spoiler on the show, right?
Yeah.
Coaches getting fired, you bench Garoppolo, you let the young buck come in and start throwing the football, right? Things start changing, right? You put an intern coach in, right? Things start changing for us. So, I see what I believe is he never envisioned Garoppolo throwing him the ball. He always envisioned Derek Carr throwing him the ball.
Agreed. Yeah.
So it was a relationship they had for years already at Fresno. So I think that trumped the Aaron Rodgers and the unknown. So if it was Garoppolo there, right, originally, I don't think he would have ever, right, but he was wanting to go to Vegas because of the relationship he had with his quarterback out of college. So
Yeah.
I
No,
get that part.
yeah, I agree with you 100%. But it goes back to prove my point. Like, I understand the relationship there. But again, Derek Carr is not Aaron Rodgers. And so I thought there should have been, and again, I do believe the real reason why he left is because number one, the pull of playing with his former college quarterback. I thought that was significant, but also he didn't know about Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
And so I just thought at the time those two could have got together and say, hey, man, we need to stay in Green Bay. I'm just surprised more players don't do that when they have something. And
I tell you
Green Bay had something. And Aaron Rodgers was a big part of him leaving because, Devontae just didn't know whether or not A-Rod was going to be there or not. He just didn't know.
Hey, had he stayed there after Aaron left, he would have had Jordan Love.
Yeah, that's right.
It's molded. You watch their games, Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love. It all looks the same, right? And this is we want to talk about Minnesota sports. It just brought up something about Devontae. So UP Nation is all sports, but it was the transition from our guy JJ, right? Just one more comment on receiver, the energy of the show, the person who takes the cake is George Kittle, right, man?
Yes, sir.
This dude understands the word fun,
Love
right?
Kittle.
And that's not, it's not dumb fun or nothing like that. Like, he enjoys playing the game of football, right? Not saying they all don't. He really just pours it out when he's playing. He's just I did not know that about his personality, and that was one of the ones that really blew me, that this dude was just this much energy, right? Nonstop, right? I think it'd be overboard for me. Like, I could take it in bunches, but he's just, it's positive energy, but it's good energy.
Yeah. I remember, man, I'm amazed at him because a friend of mine who is also a friend of yours, John Turner, Minnesota Vikings great, I remember when JT, he and I went to a Vikings preseason game together, and I believe the Vikings were playing the Indianapolis Colts, and I got a chance to be down on the field during the preseason game, and it was the closest I had ever been to a pro football game. And Pat, I don't know if you've ever been down there, but that is the most violent sport up close that you would ever want to see. And as a layman like myself who hasn't even been close to playing professional sports, especially football, to be that close to that violence down there was eye-opening to me. And to see a guy like Kittle who's out there competing and having fun is just amazing. They show one clip where Harrison Smith came and hit him low in his private parts, right? And Kittle had some things to say about that kidding around, but when he came back to the bench, he was talking to one of his coaches. He was complaining, man, I just got hit in my groin area. And he says, man, but do I love this sport? I just love football. Like, that is the type of people that you want to have on your organization. If I was a GM or a coach, like, those are some of the attributes that I would look for in a player. You're right, man. Kittle is an absolute bundle of energy and a dog.
Yes, very much so. He is, right? So, the show's great. I can't wait to, get off the podcast, go continue binging it, right? Because I'm there, at the part of, JJ going through his injury, and I just want to see how that continued to progress. And then when he came back, we all know what he did when he came back. That, it didn't matter who was throwing him the ball.
Yeah.
He was Jets, right? He was Jets. Right. He ain't JJ. He was Jets. But I love watching JJ, right? The person off the field and this young man, and just what he's like. He's going to be one of them icons, right? Yeah. He's going to be a massive icon on Minnesota sports in the history of our sports. And I'm excited about that. So.
Yes, talking about, wide receivers and the Minnesota Vikings, we got some not so good news yesterday from Jordan Addison, who was supposedly arrested for DUI. I don't know if they've made that official yet, but at least the news reports are out, sleeping on a ramp or whatever. This is Jordan's second mess up when it comes to, cars. And the first one, he was going too fast, caught speeding or whatever. And now you got this DUI incident. What should the Vikings do with Jordan Love? Because the one thing that I've always respected about you, Pat, is that every player that you coach, and I can be an advocate for you and be a witness to your coaching style. you don't only coach the X's and O's, but you love the players and you care about the players that play for you. So when I heard about this, that put me in the mindset of what should the Minnesota Vikings do to help this young man? I don't think it's about, whether or not he should play or whether or not he's going to let the Vikings down. This is a human being right now that's young. He's probably making more money than he's ever made in his life, and he's making some bad decisions. So if I was a higher up on the Vikings, more so than looking at it from a football standpoint, I would look at it like you look at it with every player that I've ever seen you coach. What can I do to help this young man? When you look at Jordan Addison, how should the Vikings approach this?
Oh man, you always get these young people and they, fool me once, right? Shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you, right? Like I'm gonna tell you this right now. McCardale is more pissed off than KOC.
Yeah.
Right? His wide receivers coach.
Yep.
And Kenny McCardale is old school. And the earful he done got this weekend from him, right? I'm telling you because I know. You got to chop it up with the man, so I know. The earful he getting from him, the earful he getting from Justin Jefferson right now. Like, he's getting an earful. This man needs to go to Tony Dungy camp and listen again what he tells rookies coming in of how you need to be. Like the NBA and the NFL have a car service for you to not drink and drive.
Yeah.
They have a car service for you. You're out in California, like it does not make sense. It's not worth it. You are 9 days away from training camp.
Yeah.
Like it does not, like it doesn't make sense. Like you aren't focused, right? You're not focused. You really take this time away. Like, nah, man, you need to be, you can't right now. I'm telling them right now, dude, you in Minnesota right now, right? Because we can't trust you.
Yeah.
Your vacation is over. You need to get here and report right now. And maybe he needs to hang around somewhere. Here's the one thing I know. JJ was at the Lynx game. Justin Jefferson was at the Lynx game yesterday, right? So he in town. You need to go hang out with Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson isn't out doing those things. You need to change the environment you're hanging around. These are things we talk about with young people. Talked about it with John Moran, like, and yes, you are responsible for what you do yourself, right?
Yeah.
But do you have the right people around you helping you, your family? Who's around you? Or you just want to be young and exuberant because you got money? No, man, you're not invincible.
Yeah.
Right? They argue we got probably the best duo when it comes to two-headed wide receivers in the league.
Yeah.
Right? There's no duo of you two. The closest thing is Ayuk and probably Debo Sanders, right?
Yeah.
But they ain't y'all, right? This is the best duo. You got, these court, like, you have to be what's the word I'm looking for? Available.
Yeah.
Right? And these actions are making you not available and not trustworthy. And they just, I mean, they have things in place for these young guys. Is he utilizing the tools that they've already set out there for him? So it's not necessarily saying what to do with him. Is he going to utilize all the resources that he has in front of him? Or does he just not really care about his future?
Yeah, I think.
And I know it's young and dumb, right? Don't get me wrong, Coach. In my 20s, I sped. In my 20s, I ain't had no DUI yet, but I'm not going to say I've never had a drink and got behind the wheel. But I learned from it. No accidents, no nothing, right? But I was young, in my 20s, early 20s. I was dumb as rocks, right?
Yeah.
But I wasn't on a different stage where you're at, right? Right, I wasn't at his level. I wasn't a professional, and you're talking about for an organization like a professional athlete, and I didn't have millions of dollars. So he on a different one. So great responsibility, great power, great responsibilities, right? Like, you need to be more responsible, young man.
I look at people that get DUIs, man, and I think the one thing that a lot of people miss is I think everyone that makes a decision to get behind the wheel of a car after drinking feels like they can make it. They feel like they don't feel as inebriated as they are. That's why they get behind the wheel and go. I've been saying for years, every car manufacturer should put on the car a breathalyzer. So before that car can start up and you can go, if you are over whatever the limit is in your state, that car does not start up. And I know there's a lot of money, that's just me, a layman. I don't know what type of budget goes into something like that, but I know one thing, it would alleviate a lot of DUIs out there. And when you look at the Jordan Addison thing, the optics of it is really bad, and it comes at a bad time because he just had a teammate that was
There you
killed,
go, right there.
and alcohol was involved. It's just a bad look. And then this is your second ding, right? So you hit the nail dead on the head, Pat, when you talked about availability. But there's another ability that's out there. That's reliability.
Yeah.
And right now, he's sending a message to his coaches that he may not be reliable. And so, as a young man, I have had athletes, I've coached a lot of different athletes. And the first thing that I would do with Jordan Addison, I would bring him into my office and we would have a serious talk. And I would say, look, this is your second ding. If you were me, what would you do with you? Like, as your coach, you are a coach now, and I am you. And you're in my seat looking at yourself. What are the next steps? What should I do with you? Should I suspend you? Should I cut you? Should I bring in somebody else to replace you? Because you are constantly sending this message to me that you are not reliable, or that you may not be reliable. Now, Jordan Addison has done a lot of good things too. Don't get me wrong. We're not here to throw Jordan Addison under the bus. I think, like you said, he is a young guy, and again, making more money than he's ever made before in his life. And you and I, Pat, are two different people than we were when we were 20 years old or 22 years old.
Sure,
So I'm not going to sit here and
I don't want to be 21 no more, man. I was dumb.
But there is a level of maturity that has to take place. And you and I had people in our lives to say, hey, Pat, you're screwing up. Hey, Lionel, you're screwing up. So this time in his life is really, really crucial. I think he's at a fork in the road. And I hope the Minnesota Vikings, I know the Minnesota Vikings, like you said, have the resources to help this young man. I just hope he makes himself available and open to the resources and the mentoring that the Vikings team can give to him, because he's amazing talent. And for all intents and purposes, from what I hear, I've never met the young man, but he is a remarkable person as well.
Oh, 100%. On the field, he's a talent. Look at the things he did all of last year, especially when JJ was away and
Yep.
JJ helped him through it. But right now there's a lot of emotions in that organization and locker room when it comes to Kyrie Jackson and how
Yep.
Kyrie Jackson passed away. And this makes them think like, dude, you just went through this with us. Did you not care? Because right now it looks like you don't care
Yeah.
about this, right?
Yeah.
And it's how he doesn't have to do it publicly. For me, for anyone out there that you feel like he needs to make this public statement to you guys, I think that's wrong. His statement needs to go to that organization and that locker room. And it's how he rebuilds trust. Because I think a lot of trust is lost right now, right?
Yeah.
And how do you rebuild this up in the next, right? Before the 30th, right, comes around, right?
Yeah.
The whatever 27th, whatever date it is, right?
Yeah.
How you build it up before camp starts here, and that's what
Yeah.
he's really got to do, right? And humility right now, right? Right now you're gonna, you made a mistake, okay? Now own it and get better.
Yeah.
Right. And that's all I want him to do is own it and get better. Right. Because I'm be honest with you, man. We need you out there.
Yeah.
We need you out there, man. We
Yeah.
need you. We need you. We need you to be reliable and available. Right. We need you out there on the field. Right. You weren't a first round pick for no reason. You didn't put up the numbers you did as a rookie for no reason, right? We have a young rookie quarterback, and we got a Sam Darnold who's going to need the weapons out there. We're already going to be without Hawk, for the first couple of weeks. We need you out there, man. Come on, be smarter, right? If anybody shares this, knows them, or hears anything, man, be smart. You're smarter than that, right? It's okay. You live and learn. That's my message to the young man, but man, we need you out there.
Yeah, we need you out there is great, and really important as well. We just want you to have a productive life, and when you are inebriated, you get behind the wheel of a car, you're taking a chance at not coming home, and we just want you to be able to come home, whether you play football or not. For the Minnesota Vikings, of course, we want you to play, but we just want you to come home as well. Lots of good topics.
But
we're going to end.
On top of that, Coach, right? We want him to come home and be safe, but like we found out in Kyrie Jackson, there's other people out there.
Oh yeah,
and they got families,
Great
whatever.
point.
They just trying to drive home, and if you out there inebriated, well, somebody may not get to see their loved one again. So
Great point.
don't just think about you. Think about the other ones around you in this world that they was just minding their own business.
Yeah, great point, man. Great point. Lots of topics to talk about. Great show so far. We're gonna wrap this thing up. We got a start one, bench one, cut one, erase one from Vazante. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Vazante from St. Cloud, Minnesota.
Okay, what's this?
This is a hard one, man. He's talking about Minnesota great. So here's the four that we have to consider, Pat.
Minnesota greats.
Minnesota greats.
Oh, man.
Okay. Number one on his list is Kevin Garnett. Number two on his list is Randy Moss.
Why are y'all doing this right now?
I know, man. Number three on his list is Chris Carter. Number four on his list is Kirby Puckett. So you got Kirby Puckett. You got Chris Carter.
I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this.
You got Randy Moss, Coach. You got Randy Moss and Kevin Garnett. So Chris Carter, Randy Moss, Kevin Garnett, and Kirby Puckett. You got to start one. You got to bench one. You got to cut one. And I don't know if people understand the significance of erase, but you are erasing this person from the record books like they never, ever existed. So, Pat, who are you going to start out of the four? It's a tough one, man.
Oh, man. UP Nation, understand that we were put in this situation.
Right.
I do not want to do this situation. I love everything about Minnesota sports, right?
Yep.
I've been here since 1994 in Minnesota, and that's half of my lifetime, so I love Minnesota sports. All right, so I know my start, and I know my erase, right?
Okay.
I can get those two. So
Yeah,
my start.
Let's start with your start.
My start is you got 2 championship rings. I'm starting Kirby Puckett. You got 2 chips.
You and I
man.
are on the same page.
You got 2 chips.
Yeah.
You got 2 chips. I'm starting Kirby Puckett. I'm sorry. He's got 2 championships. Cannot take that away. He has 2 championships, right?
That's tough. I mean, there's going to be a lot of Minnesota Viking fans upset.
I know that's. Hey, but it's the late great Kirby Puckett.
Yes,
and we had this with the Kobe situation, and in that situation, I think I had to cut Kobe, but this situation, I got to start Kirby Puckett, right?
Okay.
So Hall of Famer Kirby Puckett, may you rest in peace.
Yep,
I agree with 2 championships. Okay.
Bench.
Since I talked about the jury, right, and since I talked about jury, my bench has to be Kevin Garnett.
Okay.
I'm benching Kevin Garnett. Kevin Garnett was outside of Kirby Puckett. Like when you talk about a franchise being able to Timberwolves to be where they are right now and to ever have been relevant. See, the number one name you're always going to think of, not the Minneapolis Lakers, but the Minnesota Timberwolves, is
Yeah.
Kevin Garnett. He is the face. He has, yes, the new one is Anthony Edwards, but there's no such thing as Anthony Edwards. There's no such thing as a Kevin Love. There's no such thing as all these things without Kevin Garnett, right? That is the big ticket. Number one is fantastic guy, right? But you're a dog every single game, man.
Yeah.
That was Kevin Garnett. He's special. He was special
Yeah.
talent, and he was a transcending, right? The stretch, right? You talk about a stretch, okay? He didn't stretch out and shoot the three as much as these other, but he could guard 1 through 5.
Yeah.
Tell me another 6, 7 footer that can guard 1 through 5 like that. He was a
Right.
dog. He was a demon. So
Yeah.
that's my bench.
Yeah. My number 2 is right in line with you. I gave a lot of thought, a few seconds ago about, man, what I put. Well, this may give away who I would cut, but I said to myself, would I put Randy Moss in there over KG? And honestly, Pat, I feel like if Randy Moss would have stayed here longer and had a longer resume with the Minnesota Vikings, but he had success elsewhere with the Patriots. And this is about Minnesota greats. And so I think
Minnesota
because he had, yeah, and because he had such a, I won't call it a short time here, but again, he went other places and had success. I think that gives Kevin Garnett the edge. And I think you make a great point. Kevin Garnett was a dog every single game, and I think he had a really tough job because he was taking, the Minnesota Timberwolves organization basically out of the gutter at the time as an 18-year-old and transcending them, to one of the best teams in the NBA. So I agree with you. I give Kevin Garnett that bench spot on our team if I had to pick between the three that were left, for sure.
For sure. Obviously, by me going with this next one, right, you'll know who I'm eliminating, and we'll get to that. But, right, I don't want to. Like, the second best wide receiver to ever play the game of football in my mind is Randy Moss, right behind Jerry Rice. He is the second best to ever, in my opinion, behind Jerry Rice, because of Jerry Rice's jewelry, right?
Yeah.
He played with two greats, but Randy Moss is the second best to ever, right? To have a name talked about that being mossed, right? Who got mossed, right?
Yeah.
It's tough too, but to put him ahead of Kirby and Kevin Garnett is a tough deal. But like if you were ranking them, right, he becomes in here. He'd be a top 5 Minnesota of all time. But I have to, so I'm gonna cut him. But his records still are in the record books, right?
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna be probably in a minority on this one. As I sit here and think about it, that last spot, I was sure that I was going to put Kevin Garnett in that second spot. I was sure I was going to put Kirby Puckett in that first spot, because of the rings, and he always played at a high level. This last spot is tough because I love Randy Moss and I love Chris Carter. I'm in the minority, and I think Chris Carter is one of the best wide receivers I've ever seen play the game.
Yeah.
I put him, even though he doesn't have the numbers that a Jerry Rice has, and he wasn't as dominant physically as a Randy Moss, just as a total package wide receiver, man, I personally have never seen anything like Chris Carter. For those of you out there, the young ones who have never seen Chris Carter play, just YouTube the collage of catches that Chris Carter
sideline
made.
catches.
Oh my God.
Sideline catches.
Yes. The most reliable hands that I have ever seen in the NFL. And it's almost a crime that he never won a ring. Now, Randy Moss was the most dominant. He was the most dominant thing I've ever seen at the wide receiver spot. But we're talking about Minnesota greats, just purity of that position. And he was a mentor of Randy Moss. Man, Chris Carter, for me, I just can't erase Chris Carter from the record books. 100 catches in multiple seasons. I remember Chris Berman on ESPN. All he does is catch touchdowns. When they used to show the highlight videos, all he used to do is catch touchdowns. Man, with a little bit of regret, I have to put Chris Carter in that cut spot, and I would have to erase Randy Moss from the record books, man.
Yeah, this is, I mean, he put us in this tough situation to do stuff we ain't want to do, right? And Randy Moss is going to be Randy Moss, but his growth does not happen without Chris Carter, right? Like, that's anyone to understand without Chris Carter. And Chris Carter, you go to the record books, like I said, you younger people watch your podcast, go watch tape, go look at the numbers in, right, who's top 10 receptions all time, Chris Carter is a top 5 receiver who's ever played this game, right? He's a top 5. And what to even do more is go back and look at Chris Carter's story. Chris Carter was not Chris Carter early on in his, I think he got cut by Philly.
He did.
Chris Carter had to get mature and some growth in himself, right? But when CC became CC, and that's for the young people who understand it, we call him CC, right? He's not Chris Carter. It's CC. That's who we call him. Man, I hate to erase CC. And where Moss's number stands, there right here, and CC's here when you look at numbers, right? Because Moss was so dominant. But you guys, we were put in this situation. Chris Carter, I love you, man. You one of the Minnesota greats, right? You one of if we're putting together the wide receivers in Minnesota and we had 3 wide receivers, you, Randy Moss, and Justin Jefferson, best 3 wide receivers we ever had, right?
Yeah.
Without a doubt, you're a Hall of Famer. Like you said, you're HOF, right? I love your Hall of Fame ceremony, right? I everything about you, CC. But, I mean, in this situation, Puckett, Moss, and KG they sit there for me. So
Yeah. I can't argue with that, Pat, at all. I can't even debate it. I don't think there's a wrong answer here. The only difference for me is the way our guy from St. Cloud put it, Minnesota greats. And I think Randy Moss was great, but he was also great elsewhere. And I think for me personally, that changes the game for me a little bit. And that's why I put Chris Carter up there. But major love to Randy Moss as well, man. How can you... I feel guilty from erasing Randy Moss from the record books as well. But this is what UP Nation puts us in. We got to make the decisions. But yeah, that was a tough one, man. That was start one, bench one, cut one, erase one. Man, that was tough.
That was super. That one was tougher than the basketball one. This one was way tougher because this is more right here, touches home, right?
Yeah.
When you talk about Minnesota greats, that's man. Gee, I was just on. I was watching, and they did the all-time greats for Minnesota Vikings, right? Throughout, and that was tough to just watch the names, right? Who's the all-time great? Who's the honorable mention, right? It's tough when you go through that. Everybody has their own opinion, but I think we both agree when it comes to Kirby Puckett and Kevin Garnett, those are the top 2 Minnesota icons.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, for sure.
What if he would have put Maya Moore in there?
Oh man, that gets
he would have
tough.
put Maya Moore in there, man.
That gets tough. But I got a feeling, Pat, because UP Nation is growing every day. I think people like this segment of the show, looking at the comments. So they're going to come up with some creative stuff to try to stump us.
Don't do it, UP. Don't do it to us, UP.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens in the future. Hey, man, again, another great show. We're going to wrap this thing up. More good content to come. Appreciate having my guy, Patrick Buchanan, on the show. Appreciate all the love and comments from UP Nation. Pat, anything you want to say to wrap it up?
Nah, man, UP, it's great again. Like Minnesota sports is coming up, right? Vikings, right? You'll see a whole layout in the back here for me when everything starts. I'm gonna make sure that I'm right on my end. I'm ready to roll though. I'm telling UP Nation, Minnesota sports, Vikings talk, Timberwolves talk, Lynx talk, all that, right? We're gonna hit more. Me and Coach Jones, gonna collaborate with each other and do our thing. But we appreciate you. I appreciate the love and feedback that you continue to give us.
Yeah, absolutely. Our plan is to be present at some of the Minnesota Vikings training camps. So if you guys see us out there, UP Nation, you see us out there, don't be afraid to come up and say hi. We don't bite. We're not scary people. We love to see the nation in person. So please feel free to do that. Again, hit that like and subscribe button. Almost to 8,000 subscribers, Pat. Almost to 8,000 subscribers. So this thing, even in the last couple of weeks, is just growing. Just thank you for all that love. This has been your host, Lionel Jones, along with your host, Mr. Patrick Buchanan. Latre, take us out. UP Nation, we will see ya when we see ya.
I don't know who I am. Can I say I'm a man?